Okay, guys. So on Monday, we started reading lesson 5 about different jobs. I asked you to identify the 3 steps involved in planning for a job. Now, you either read this on your own or followed along with me. Hopefully, you gathered that, once there is a demand or a need for something, when you start planning for this job, you have to ask questions. In this case, it was about a bridge. So they were wanting to know where the bridge would be built, what type of bridge would be best, how much would the bridge cost, what are the laws about bridges. And all of those questions had to have answers. So ask questions was number one. Number two is then once you have those answers to these questions, you create a plan. So you gather resources that you would need to complete the job and you propose this idea to someone. You already have all the questions answered. And so hopefully someone gives you the thumbs up and says, okay, go ahead. But then, third, you need to make sure you have those resources, such as the money and the tools and the people to make sure this plan for this new job can succeed. So, as we go on to page 274 and 275, we have our new vocabulary. I want to go over the vocabulary and we're going to watch a short video that I hope is going to help you really understand the importance of specialization and division of labor. So, specialization is when each person in a group has a special skill and does one job or part of a project. Generally helps things run smoother and production speeds can increase. The division of labor is when the project is divided or broken down into smaller jobs, because then that also helps the production speed increase, which is more money for that business. And then finally, we have interdependence. And that's when people depend on each other to get the things they need or want. So before we read this together, I want us to go to this YouTube video. It's really cute.
Ready?
And I hope it's going to break things down and help you understand the importance of specialization and division of labor.
To the Cupcake Olympics. Our first contestant, Elizabeth.
Make sure they're perfect.
It's time. And it is my turn. I have a minute. Ready? Go. How many cupcakes can she make in one?
It took you 30 seconds to do one.
You're distracting me.
Make sure they're perfect.
Oh shoot, it's lopsided.
I don't think I can do that.
Might not pass inspection.
Oh no, then I'll fail.
One.
It's a mini cupcake.
It took you 30 seconds to do one. You're
10
distracting me.
seconds.
Oops. Lopsided.
5,
Might
4,
not pass inspection.
3,
Oh, no,
2,
I'll fail.
1. Stop.
2.
It's a mini cupcake. This is my specialty. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. 2.
Oh, nonsense. Put the sprinkle on. 1. Here's another 2.
Oh, nonsense.
2. Oh, you got it.
Now, I want you to notice there's 3 people now, and the tasks have been broken up. So let's see how many cupcakes they can make in a minute. Do you think it'll be less or more?
Should I make it bigger? I'll make mine smaller. Okay, that's it. 1 minute. Elizabeth, what was your team strategy?
Well, I learned when I tried to do it by myself that it just wasn't going very well. So we used division of labor and broke everything down into smaller tasks. I specialized in icing. Haley specialized in cupcakes.
Okay, so they made
And
4.
Amelia
That's double the
specialized in
amount.
putting them together and adding sprinklers.
Elizabeth,
So,
what
you
was
know,
your
it's
change?
perfection.
Well, I learned when I
Thank you,
tried to do it
Haley.
by myself, and it
Thank
just
you,
wasn't going
Elizabeth.
very well.
My pleasure.
So we used division of labor and broke everything down into smaller tasks. I specialized in icing. Haley specialized in cupcakes. And Amelia specialized in putting them together and adding sprinklers. So, you know,
Sprinkles.
it's perfection. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Elizabeth. My pleasure.
Okay. So while things might be a little bit more complicated than that with other jobs, that's a great way to have a better understanding. If you notice that in the first part of the video, you had one person doing everything, and that wasn't as effective because she only made 2 cupcakes in 1 minute. Now, when the jobs were divided, such as the division of labor, and each person had a specialized job, they were able to double the amount of cupcakes they could make in 1 minute. So, as I go ahead and read this lesson to you, I want you to start thinking about and be able to explain why specialization and division of labor are important to a project. That's number 2. So, projects like building a bridge can include many different kinds of jobs. One person might draw the plans for a project, while another might figure out how much it will cost. A third person might get the tools and machines. When each person has a special skill and does one job or one part of a project, it is called specialization. Specialization leads to a division of labor. When there is a division of labor, a project is divided or broken down into smaller jobs. Each person then works on his or her own job, and together they get the project done. With the specialization and division of labor, people do not have to learn every skill needed to complete a job. Instead, they can learn to do one job well. This saves time and money during a project. It also helps a project run smoothly. So let's go back to that video. If they were actually baking cupcakes, there might be someone who specializes in the cupcake batter, while another person specializes in the frosting, and another person specializes in putting the cupcakes together and adding the sprinkles. Okay? Think about how many people it takes to produce the food we eat. Farmers grow crops, they specialize in keeping soil and plants healthy. Factory workers put soup, tuna, and other foods in cans. They specialize in keeping food safe and making it available to many people. Both the farmers and the factory workers have an important role in producing the food we eat. So now let's look at jobs around the world. Specialization and division of labor help people in communities around the world. That is because people can sell their products and skills to others who need them. Writing, welding, and teaching are skills. Growing food and fixing things are also skills. People in different countries often develop skills that are important where they live. For example, people who live in places that have many trees might learn to work with wood. People who live in places that have a lot of water might learn to build boats. The people who work with wood sell it to the people who build boats. When these people trade with each other, they all get what they need. This is why buyers and sellers around the world exchange goods and services. They depend on each other when people depend on each other to get the things they need and want. It's called interdependence. Trade is not the only way people around the world are interdependent. People attend schools in different countries. They also work in different countries. As they live and work together, people around the world learn from one another. They also better understand others' ideas. So, number 2, the question you're going to answer is explain why specialization and division of labor are important to a project. So, think of the cupcakes. And then number 3, explain one way people around the world are interdependent. So remember, interdependent is depending on one another. It can do with trade, or it can simply do with going to other places in the world to learn something. But we're relying on someone else, which is the point. That's it for today. Make sure you're answering your questions in complete sentences. And I want you to still hang on to your business idea that you had, because we are going to come back to that after this lesson is done. because now you might realize that there are some tweaks that need to be made. If you were having a lemonade stand, are you going to pick